upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. And so, and if I were to make the analogy here of right arm and left arm and left eye represent the Old Testament where the law is. The law is weak, the law is mean, the law is cruel. And what do we have going on in our world today? We have a society that cannot get victory over the law. The law is mean. The law, Paul said, is a schoolmaster. I mean, I like the law. It's good. I mean, it's good not to commit adultery. It's good not to lie. But that's what's everybody doing. And God promised, and we're going to see that in a little bit, God promised when man began to break the law and couldn't live by the law and became lawless, that God would put them under cruel authority. Hence the all-seeing eye. The right eye, the right arm would represent the New Testament. Those two work together, walk together, except they be agreed, right leg, left leg. They all work together. It represents the parts of our Bible. See how simple this is, the imagery of it when we get it. But God has utterly darkened his right eye. That means he cannot see and people who follow this shepherd cannot see who the real Jesus is by way of the New Testament. The mystery is not revealed to them, and the saving strength of God's right arm and God's right hand is not present in their life. That's what this is leading you to believe, is that it's built upon, and there are 10 commandments, there are 10 kings, 10 horns on this beast. I mean, it all fits together. And so the spirit that is the condemnation of the law being represented by the idol shepherd, the Antichrist, who has his right eye put out and his right arm cut off. No saving grace, no mercy, nothing but the cruel authority of the law. In Isaiah chapter 13, verse 18, the Bible says, "Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children." Now, I want you to think about this. We're talking about the all-seeing eye. We're talking about this spirit here, and the spirit that is leading people into the New World Order, and all of the terrible things that we know from the Bible are going to happen in those days. And so their eye shall not spare their children. That spirit is leading mankind to be a cruel authority over mankind. I promise you, in every generation, there has always been evil dictators over mankind whose eye has not spared the children. Their eye, they had no pity whatsoever. They didn't care about the outcome or the freedoms of people. They just didn't care. And Isaiah 13 is a very interesting place in the Bible because it refers to prophecies of the last days and what's going to happen. Notice verse 8. "They shall be afraid, pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth." Now, if I were to stop right here, we think of the New Testament where the Bible says, "The day of the Lord shall come as a thief in night, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them." How? "As travail upon a woman with child." Now that, and all of that fits in with Annuit Coeptus, the birth, the all-seeing eye, the birth of the New World Order, the pangs. We are in the pangs, I believe, right now of a New World Order. So, "They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another, and their faces shall be flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine." Now, all of this is a reference to what Jesus mentioned in Matthew chapter 24, which is in Mark 13, Luke 21, the book of Acts chapter 2, the book of Revelation. The stars are going to fall, the sun is going to be darkened, the moon is going to turn to blood before the great and notable day of the Lord. That is the day when the spirit of the Antichrist, the idol shepherd, the all-seeing eye, when that spirit is going to rule over mankind and not have pity upon mankind. Cruel authority. Now, I'm going to go to the book of Deuteronomy. There are certain places in the Bible that I can always go to, and I can see very clearly what's going on. Remember the law. Remember the right eye being put out and the right arm not working represents the New Testament, grace, victory over the sinfulness that comes by the law. God had made a covenant with Israel in Deuteronomy 28, and He told them basically this. He said, when you come into the land and you get settled and everything's working out, He said, I will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. Let's think about the United States of America just for a minute, because we were the great superpower of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. In other words, to listen to God, to have His law in our hearts, to have a moral society where people didn't have to spy on everybody all the time, because people pretty much lived a moral life. We don't have that anymore in this country. It doesn't exist. Maybe small pockets here and there, but by and large it doesn't exist anymore. The blessings that have come upon our nation, the blessings of the harvest that we have had, the blessings of the financial wealth that we've had, the blessings of our children that we've had, all the blessings, we're running out of time on them. And God says later on that when it shall come to pass, in verse 15, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God to observe to do all His commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And I'm going to look at some of these curses, and you're going to kind of get it, because we're looking at the all-seeing eye, the surveillance society that we live in right now. The devil, remember, the devil needs a network. He can't get by without it. And he's going to use that network, and you're going to see some things. Deuteronomy 28:41. This is part of the curse. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters. Thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Everybody that researches the New World Order and the surveillance technology and everything, we get it. We get it. We are in this country, and probably all over the world, we're handing over the authority that the Constitution, the Bible gives us to rule and govern our own lives and our own passions. We're handing that over to the military, the law enforcement agencies, everywhere in this country. We're saying to them, by our lack of morality and our refusal to obey the laws, you better watch everything that goes on around us. Okay? We are bringing ourselves into our own bondage and our own captivity. We will be prisoners right inside of our own homes. We're almost there, people. Deuteronomy 28, verse 54, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. You know what he's saying here? He's saying that your lawlessness and your lack of honoring my ways in your life, in your country, in your family, in your home, in your churches, is that, you know what's going to turn you into? It's going to turn you into a tattletale upon your own house. Wait till you see how that's coming alive today. You need to see this. Deuteronomy 28:68, another aspect of the curse. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spoke unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. There you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. You know, when I was reading this, I just thought it was so interesting that God was speaking about bringing them into the bondage of Egypt. Because really, if you look at the source, the root of the image of the all-seeing eye, what you go back to is the eye of Horus, the sun god, the spirit of Egypt that ruled over and held in bondage the people of Israel, God's people. This is where we're heading right now. And it's a bondage that captivity, that bondage is being brought on by the spirit represented by the eye that sees everything, or seeks to see everything that is going on in the world. Now, I mentioned the Vatican a while ago. I mentioned Rome a while ago. Because before we had CCTV cameras, before we had the internet, before we had cell phones, before we had the NSA, before we had